live on the world's largest and most luxurious aircraft carrier. This is the largest aircraft carrier in the world. American Ford-class aircraft carrier. Full crew of 6,000 people. It's not so much a ruthless war machine. It's better to say it's the most arrogant cruise ship in the world. Can travel unimpeded in the seas of all countries. $14 billion worth. Make the Forte aircraft carrier the most expensive ship in the world. The above precision instruments are the top in the world. Any instrument can be sold at a sky-high price. And it's so easy to work here. Working days are 4 hours of work and 8 hours of rest, much better than China's 996 social animals, and the United States as the world hegemony, warships of other countries. If you see the Ford-class aircraft carrier, you have to be careful to keep your distance. Dare not move forward, even the wildest Somali pirates. In front of the Ford-class aircraft carrier, afraid of being beaten, wait until not training. The cruise carnival will begin. At this time on the aircraft carrier deck, it is no longer a variety of planes that stop, but entertainment for the crew. After all, it is a giant of the sea, the 4G aircraft carrier with a length of 340 meters and a width of 77 meters. It's not bad even if you play football on it. The only downside is that although it is surrounded by the sea, but the sand under my feet is hard steel. The most popular of all sports is basketball. It's arguably the most popular sport in America. While a permanent deck cannot exist on a deck, but when relaxing, temporarily build a small basketball court. Not a problem. Even some crew members, and get annoyed when you don't get your turn. Certainly, rest time on an aircraft carrier, although there is a rest time, but not everyone can rest while sailing. The mother uses a shift system. Need to ensure that someone is managing and running it all the time. The giant of the sea. Except for the crew who are still working. There are still some employees who have no rest or making up shifts. Those whose work is not done. I can only watch silently. Playful crew. Shed tears of envy. During break time, except for basketball at sea, more deck sand sunbathing. Like an outing on land. Some of the crew will put up a barbecue awning. Start to replenish energy after intense training. There's nothing like a cold drink. It's comforting to have another bite of delicious food, but pay attention to grasp the degree. Although rest time does not participate in training, but in case there is an urgent task, eating too much is easy to vomit. All the crew will not miss the sea outing. Although there is a restaurant in the aircraft carrier, but restaurant food is designed to be more digestible and healthy, usually overcooked and not chewy at all. Craving chewy food. I can only bake a little by myself when I relax. Besides these, the most common recreational activities of the crew, just swim. After all, besides the sea, there is still the sea. It's a pity not to use it, although you can swim. But if the crew jumps and dangles from the deck at a height of 30 meters, it's no different than suicide. But in order for the crew to swim, when the Ford base aircraft carrier was being designed, a section of the aircraft carrier has been specially reduced in height, shortened the height of the deck by about half. This height is just enough for the crew to jump into the sea. Won't hurt yet. Let the crew embrace the ocean during their downtime. Have a nice swim, because it's on the sea. Although the probability is small, but there is still a chance of encountering sharks while swimming. For safe swimming, need someone on the deck with a machine gun to fend off approaching sharks. But when swimming, you must pay attention to one thing. Just don't forget the time because you are having too much fun. After all, the displacement of the Ford-class aircraft carrier, but the existence of more than 100,000 tons, but died in the water waves when the aircraft carrier was launched. Otherwise, it would be too wrong. How big is the American Forte aircraft carrier? Hidden below the deck are dozens of the world's most advanced fighter, the largest aircraft carrier in the world. The loading capacity of the 4G aircraft carrier is also the highest in the world. Hidden below are dozens of aircraft of various models and countless supplies. 4G aircraft carrier can take off and land every day. It can be said that the biggest role of the 4G aircraft carrier as the ocean moving airport. The task content is only with plane wandering in the ocean. Even if it's a room change, it's just a stroll from one place to another place. Fortunately, the Ford-class aircraft carrier is a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. No need to carry large amounts of fuel. Therefore, the saved space can load more fighters. Reduced weight can make the Ford-class aircraft carrier faster. Can reach 60 kilometers per hour. In theory, within a week, it can go anywhere in the world. The hangar of the 4G aircraft carrier is below the deck, area about 8,000 square meters. In order to accommodate fighters to the greatest extent, all airplane wings are foldable. Even a helicopter can retract the propeller. This is not only to reduce aircraft footprint, to ensure the safety of the aircraft. After all, the deck of the transport plane, almost exposed on the outside of the aircraft carrier. If the memory is too large, not only is it not conducive to transportation, it may also be disturbed by air currents. The best moment on the 4G aircraft carrier, when performing tasks, they sailed recklessly on the sea. All countries have to give face, as long as it's not too outrageous. He can go on a rampage all over the world. plus 75 of the world's most advanced fighter jets. Without any exaggeration, small countries simply cannot resist a medium-sized country with a weaker combat power. It is also possible to destroy the country. Pilot the world's most advanced warships and aircraft. This is undoubtedly a great honor for the soldiers. No one can refuse. Before the fighter plane is ready to take off, need to do some prep work, including scheduling and commanding. After confirming that the plane is about to take off, hangar staff will guide the aircraft into the hydraulic lifting platform. At this time, the platform will deliver it to the flight deck in 10 seconds. Although it looks simple, but the manipulation behind those who wish to have 3 heads and 6 arms. It is necessary to determine the position of the fighter plane at all times and calculate the time for the plane to return. After all, the deck is big, but it is impossible to let dozens of planes take off at the same time. If the command is wrong, don't say whether it is a waste of time. In case the pilot didn't see clearly when forced to stop, what to do if you hit a plane that is taking off. It can be said that the 6,000 employees on the Ford aircraft carrier, everyone is elite. If placed in a smaller country, at least at the level of the King of Marines, small commanders can be captains of other ships. After all, this is the largest and most powerful aircraft carrier in the world. Those who can get here are all talented people. That's what the crew brags about. At present, the number of carrier-based aircraft on the Ford-class aircraft carrier is 75. Even small and medium airports, there is no way to take off and land at the same time. So want to make the Ford-class carrier exerts the greatest fighting power. It is necessary to arrange the takeoff and landing time reasonably, even if more detailed. It is also necessary to arrange the load of weapons reasonably, even if the Fuji aircraft carrier has a high degree of automation, even equipped with a lot of black technology. However, the cooperation of all employees is still required in order to complete the daily takeoff and landing limit of 300 sorties. After all, the person who controls this ocean giant. The staff on board always believe in one sentence: weapons beyond human control are never a help, but to destroy its own source. In addition to the huge hangar, the interior of the Fort G aircraft carrier, there are also many small storage rooms. There are various military supplies. Because of the large number of rooms, even the staff responsible for these, it is also easy to get lost in the cabin. Fortunately, although there are many rooms, but there are still some memorable routes, not really stuck in the storage room. If you get lost in the end looking for something, definitely going to be the laughing stock of the rest of the crew. How much money does the American Forte aircraft carrier have? 5 tons of food is consumed every day. Small countries can't afford it. U.S. Forte aircraft carrier as a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. It has the advantages that conventional-powered aircraft carriers cannot match. It can continue to sail for 50 years with a full charge. So the missions performed are long-distance missions. One trip to sea should be away from the mainland for at least 3 or 4 months. But the Ford-class carrier is a nuclear-powered carrier. No refueling required. But the crew can't. Don't say you won't eat for 3 or 4 months. If you don't eat for a day, you will be too hungry to walk. So the crew supplies are very important. The full crew of the Fort G aircraft carrier is 6,000 people. Consumption is undoubtedly the bulk of it. Amount of food consumed per day by the Forte aircraft carrier. Because when the Fuji aircraft carrier was performing its mission, need to travel day and night. Therefore, the shift work system implemented. So every once in a while, the crew will go to the mess hall and eat. This also led to the fact that the cook on the Fort G aircraft carrier thought the staff on the ship had pig appetites. Giant can eat because the Navy is the most susceptible. The presence of claustrophobia to appease the soldiers. There are also many delicacies on the Fuji aircraft carrier. Lobster, abalone, steak, everything. Although not the best ingredients, but plenty. There is no limit to how much you can eat. After all, the Forte aircraft carrier is a serious warship, where food that nature can't stockpile too much. So every 10 days and half a month, the supply will be replenished once. However, even with specialized personnel, this huge consumption expenditure is still somewhat unbearable. After all, more than 5 tons of meat, eggs and milk are consumed every day. Even if the family can print money, they can't stand it. Gotta throw in $6 million a month. This is still the discounted price. Don't say that a small country has no aircraft carrier. Even if a small country tries its best to get an aircraft carrier, the cost of meals for the crew alone can drag down the country. Except for this, of course. The Forte carrier has another almost fatal problem. The more you eat, the more you naturally pull. 5 tons of food per day. No matter how strong the digestive system is, it can't stand the residue. Even if you lose weight compared to the food you eat, less than half. It also produces at least 20 tons of excrement every month. Thankfully, it's at sea. As long as it is not close to the mainland, it can be discharged in any way. Anyway, at the speed of the Forte aircraft carrier, the excrement in the area will not pollute the environment. If there are planktonic organisms nearby, it was a pleasant surprise for them. In addition to the most basic food and drink, there is also a Starbucks supermarket on the Fort G aircraft carrier, barbershop and other infrastructure. After all, you can't drink alcohol during the march. Want to relieve stress? All that's left is a cup of warm coffee. And coffee also contains a lot of sugar and fat. Proper drinking can relieve people's anxiety, make people happy. After all, you can't set foot on land for 3 or 4 months at a time. Don't say the crew is going crazy. If you put the fish on land for 3 or 4 months, the fish will go crazy. Even extremely short fish can lose water because they can't find water. Piss yourself off. Drinks in the supermarket can also relieve the stress of the crew, although there is no alcohol in the supermarket. But there are still some alcoholic drinks, such as Red Bull, although the content is not much, but it can save the life of a drunk. And Red Bull can refresh if you can't grab coffee when you're sleepy. A can of Red Bull is also a pretty good choice. Although it is difficult to understand, why do you want to be on an aircraft carrier where every inch of land is expensive? But it turns out, it's worth it. Every month, both Starbucks and supermarkets will have a profit of $10,000. If the Ford-class aircraft carrier can serve 11 years, the cost comes back. It is certainly impossible for the aircraft carrier to count on this little thing to pay back. The main purpose of opening Starbucks and supermarkets: tell the crew they're not out of touch with society. It's a little psychological comfort. After all, every time a Ford aircraft carrier performs a mission, we'll go deep into the ocean. No signal here. The crew had no way of communicating with the outside world. Entertainment activities are also poor. If there is no such psychological comfort, let alone the crew, even the captain has to be crazy.